So we've just gotten a little bit of a hands-on session with a game called Tristoy, a platformer, co-op platformer. Can you introduce us to what Tristoy is?
Definitely. So Tristoy is, like you said, a co-op platformer, and it's really, we call it a story-driven co-op platformer actually because it has lots of dialogues in it. We have a narrative designer that's really going to make this a great experience and a great story around the game. And it's really centered around two-player co-op. It's really something we liked back in the days, like the split screen thing, and really went for it. And we thought like, okay, let's center everything around co-op because we're an indie studio and we're not like, we have to hit the very, very biggest market. So really concentrated on co-op to make this the best game experience as possible.
There are a few things that struck me about it that a little bit different. First of all, the dialogue really has an effect on not just the story, but actually the gameplay. Which, like, you drop players in a bit of a hot pot right in the beginning, yeah. And your choice will affect how much health you have in the entire game.
Definitely. So really continue that throughout the entire game. So we even have a boss fight that's actually made in riddles or in dialogue stuff. So it's really about maybe sometimes thinking or helping each other. You can ask your colleague for help. And really, we have multiple endings, and it really affects what happens in the game.
And another thing that's very different is you said it's split screen, but it's not yet split screen. It's a very strange dynamic thing going there, which surprisingly, because when I first saw it in the trailer, I thought like this is going to be confusing. This is going to confuse me. But it feels real natural how it dynamically changes while you play.
Yeah, that's really something we experimented a lot on, because if you have like normal split screen you have in the older games, you always have to choose if you split vertically or horizontally. And that's really, there are many situations where this won't work very well. So we were able to make a split screen that can actually rotate and change position, and on top of that, like you said, it can even join back. So you always get the maximum and perfect screen usage out of it, and it really worked out very well.
I think that the main positive thing about that is that you always know where the other one is in relation to each other, even though it's a split screen.
Yeah, definitely. So that's also something you have, like we push this further throughout the game, so we have levels where both players are separated, and it's really important where the other one is, and it really helps a lot. It gives you a lot of orientation. And it's really about holding both players together, knowing where your colleague is. And you can always call him like, come over here, and he knows where to go. That's really something important in the game.
Yes, and there's no risk of pushing the other player or anything like that, of course, which is also nice. Yeah. But another thing I thought about is the art style is a very sort of particular art style. Can you tell us a little bit how that was born?
We'll have like, I think, 3 designers on our 5-people team, so really art heavy on games we do. And we also have like our main illustrator, he has been an illustrator like professional for several years now. So he brings a very distinct art style. You can also see this here. It's very like inspired from the Asian region. You have a lot of colors in it, and that's really something I think that makes our game stand apart.
And then, last shock you had, because it's a co-op game and you bring it out on PC, you've done something a little bit special to sort of allow for that cooperative play, with maybe facilitate it a little bit, because it can be hard on a PC to do co-op.
Yeah, right. At the beginning, I mean, obviously we started with keyboard, but then it turned out if you put 2 players with 2 hands on a keyboard, it really gets like, yeah, you get really close together. It's not that much fun over 2 hours. So we went for controller, but then we found out that not everyone owns 2 controllers. And I mean, in Germany, they are like, I think, 30 to 40 euros each, and that's a lot of money. So what we've been developing is a technology called Uniplay, so you can just use your Android or iOS smartphone, join the game over Wi-Fi, and the app is out there already, it's for free, and you can just play the game. Because we really wanted to make it as accessible as possible for gamers. We wanted to people buy our game and simply have fun and not have a bad experience, because it's too, on the keyboard really bad, so yeah.
And the good thing, it's a twofold good thing about that, because virtual D-pads, for me, is kind of like in mobile games, it's kind of difficult to deal with. But of course, you're using the whole screen, so it's a little bit it's a little bit better. You got the response with the rumble when you hit the buttons, right. perhaps most importantly, the lag is not noticeable at all.
Like you said, we have like I think 4 milliseconds lag. So it's like the average speed you have in a normal panel, in a normal screen you have. So it's really not something you really experience or you can feel. And like you said, the rumble is really, I think, the most important thing we found out, because it really replaces the haptic response. Because if you have a controller, you feel when you miss the button because you just feel it. And that's something you don't have on touch screen. But if you have rumble, like you said, and you miss the button, you always feel when you miss. And that's something that makes it really engaging. You don't have to look at your smartphone while playing, and that's something we went for.
And it's also coming out on Xbox One. What's the rollout ahead? What do you have left to do, and when can we get to play it?
All right, it's coming for, Xbox will be next year. It takes a bit longer with that. But I mean, nowadays as an indie, we're really happy because, an Xbox these days or PS4 is really very similar to PC. And if you're doing platformer, you don't have that much of performance problems. I mean, you don't have these large 3D environments. You don't have, it's 8 GB of RAM, for example, in an Xbox. And that's really a no-brainer nowadays. And that's really, really something we're looking forward to it. So as an indie, it's really, I think, compared to like 10 years ago, it's pretty easy. So really like that.
And when's the PC version coming?
Yeah, PC will be like September, October on Steam. And yes, Xbox somewhat in January next year.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Have a nice show.